Hi everyone, welcome back to another Kind Mind episode. Now we just wanted to start this video by acknowledging how much strength it may have taken to click on a video called Cultivating Gratitude at a time when things are still really difficult at the moment and there is still a lot of uncertainty. We understand you may be sat there thinking, how can I be grateful right now given everything that's going on? How is this going to help me and why would they even suggest this right now? So we wanted to explain that being grateful and giving yourself time to focus on this isn't about dismissing the things that are really tough, those things that are causing you suffering or affecting your mental health or your physical health or just your life. But the importance of gratitude is that it can actually help us the most during these difficult times. It isn't something to just use and engage with when things are going really well. It really helps us to turn the focus up on what is good and helps us reframe hardship, which ultimately helps us feel more resilient and more positive. And there's so much evidence and research that practicing gratitude improves mood, health, and overall happiness and well-being, which is something that Mary talks to us about in more detail in this video. So we just want to say, well done, keep going, keep giving time to the things that are going to help you right now, such as this video, such as the techniques that we share, and we hope you'll enjoy it and continue to be kind to yourself. So let's get into the video with Mary. Hi Mary, welcome onto the Kind Mind series. It's really lovely to have you here today.
Hi Jess, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
No problem. So I'm really looking forward to talking about gratitude today. I find this topic personally really interesting because it feels like something that's sort of come out of nowhere and become quite popular, especially on social media. I see a lot of people talking about daily gratitudes or doing a gratitude journal. And this is probably because from what I've read, there is a real link between cultivating gratitude and improved happiness and improved mood. So first of all, I was just wondering if you could talk to us a bit more in depth about what gratitude is.
Absolutely. Well, firstly, you're right. It is being spoken about more. And I think this is because of the growing research around how these daily practices are positively impacting our well-being. I suppose also people wanting to share their own experiences. Yeah. So what is gratitude? Well, the Oxford English Dictionary defines gratitude as the quality or condition of being thankful, the appreciation of an inclination to return kindness. Gratitude is a natural response to a particular situation when good things happen. It's a feeling which is enhanced when we look at life with the lens of gifts and opportunities. And there's a lovely quote from a monk and a lecturer called David Steindl-Rast, and he describes every moment as a gift. And he says, we've not earned it, we don't know if we'll have another, and each moment is an opportunity to respond to. So gratitude is an approach to life. It can be freely chosen, and perhaps surprisingly, it doesn't depend on objective life circumstances. It's an emotion that's been thought about for thousands of years in religion and philosophy. And I suppose it's worth mentioning the national holiday Thanksgiving, which began as a way of giving thanks for the harvest.
Yeah.
Until the last few decades, gratitude wasn't given a lot of attention in psychology.
Yeah. So from what I gather from that is that actually gratitude is a natural response that we have, a natural feeling that we can have. But we can actually also choose to tune into it more, develop and use to our advantage in life to improve or help us cope with life circumstances. So in that sense, it feels like a form of self-care in a way to self-soothe and comfort ourselves. And I think you're right in that it has actually always been there. We've always had days in society or in our communities where we focus on being grateful for something or someone, whether that's family or a loved one or a religious day. But it's so interesting that it's now being identified as almost a kind of therapy in itself. So I wonder, is there research being done in this area?
There's quite a bit of research being done. So, well, firstly, in regards to the positive impact that gratitude can have on our mental health, the leading researcher is a professor and leading scholar in positive psychology, Robert Emmons, and he's been researching gratitude for 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so quite some time.
Yeah.
And he divides gratitude into two stages. The first is acknowledgement, and the second is recognition. So the first stage is acknowledgement of goodness in one's life, and the second is recognizing that the source of this goodness lies outside of yourself. So the object of gratitude is other directed. There's also a prominent positive psychology researcher, Sonia Lubomirsky, and who she says gratitude is an antidote to negative emotions, a neutralizer of envy, hostility, war, and irritation. And it's savoring, it's not taking things for granted, and it's being present oriented.
Yeah, I love that description, especially the bit about gratitude being an antidote. It's such a good word. It makes me think of it almost as having healing properties, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's thought that there are healing benefits to practicing gratitude. You mentioned previously research findings suggest there's a connection between gratitude and good health. There's scientific proof that when people regularly engage in the systematic cultivation of gratitude, they experience a variety of measurable psychological, physical, and interpersonal benefits.
Okay, so there are benefits for our mental health and our psychological well-being, which I kind of, felt aware of, but you're also saying there are physical benefits and it can also help us in our relationships.
It can, yes.
Wow.
Perhaps we can have a look at this in further detail. So let's look at the psychological benefits. It's thought that practicing gratitude can increase our happiness, our contentment, and reduce anxiety and depression. And it can increase our self-esteem, self-satisfaction, and it can allow us to acknowledge and actually pay attention to our own strengths.
Yeah.
There are findings suggesting people experience reduced feelings of guilt, shame, and increased resilience to emotional setbacks and negative experiences.
Yeah.
Research also indicates that we're more disciplined and more likely to achieve goals. And another benefit is that gratitude is thought to develop our counterfactual thinking, so meaning imagining ourselves in worse off scenarios.
Yeah, and that's actually something I wanted to talk about, because there is definitely an element to cultivating gratitude of, I guess, being thankful that you're not in a worse off scenario. But I do also worry that can stop students from being kind to themselves and allowing themselves to acknowledge when something difficult is happening. So do you think it's just a case of getting a balance with this?
Yes, I think so. It's incredibly important to let yourself feel what you need to feel about whatever circumstances you might be in. Your gratitude practice shouldn't be done, could be done alongside this, so it shouldn't distract from your experiences or feelings. Just allow yourself to feel what you're feeling and seek help when needed, and try and refocus your attention towards what you can appreciate. This will then help you to change your cognition, so your thoughts. So through practicing, you can learn to attend selectively to positive experience and relationships. And we continue to pay attention and then notice what we are grateful for.
Yeah.
I'd also want to mention here, after your stress and anxiety video you did, that cultivating gratitude can also help regulate the stress response. So regularly practicing gratitude can help fear and anxiety when we're stressed. Yeah. We're more likely to experience breath flow rather than breath restriction. So there's a reduction in the stress hormone cortisol. We're better able to regulate our sympathetic nervous system.
I love that. It's so great to have another tool in the toolbox for stress and anxiety. I feel like it's always good to have more. And especially as gratitude isn't typically the the strategy that comes to mind when coping with stress and anxiety, but actually, you know, there's so much evidence there, and I bet it would be really impactful for some of our students.
Absolutely. Another thing, cultivating gratitude can impact our brain and our brain structure. So let's just remember, brains are still developing right up until the age of 25. So there's an increase in neuroplasticity, new neural connections are made and strengthened, and research findings have found that there's an increase in serotonin and dopamine, which are the neurotransmitters responsible for happiness.
Yeah.
There's greater activity in the medial prefrontal cortex, which is the area of the brain linked to learning and decision making.
Yeah, and I bet that is a piece of research that I would imagine feels quite interesting for our students. It's just amazing to think that being grateful can impact you so positively in such a physiological way, which is just amazing. And you also mentioned there were physical health benefits too, which I'm intrigued about.
Yeah. So the physical health benefits are stronger immune system, fewer body aches and pains, optimum blood pressure, cardiac function, and improvement in your sleep quality.
Yeah, it's just amazing that it has just those are physical effects. Doesn't feel like if you go to the doctor with aches, they're going to say, "Oh, practice gratitude." But I mean, the evidence is there that it really can improve your health, your overall health in all these different ways. And presumably a lot of these things are all linked because, you know, if practicing gratitude lowers your stress and your anxiety, of course it's going to improve your sleep quality, because we know from our other episodes that those two things are often correlated. And it feels like as we go through the series, there are these patterns that start to emerge. And it feels like gratitude just slots in nicely to help improve so many of these areas that we're discussing in the series.
Absolutely. There's so many links. And it makes me think, when you speak about previous episodes, makes me think of the episode on connecting with others. Cultivating gratitude has so many interpersonal benefits. And perhaps I could name a few of those.
Yeah, please.
So there are changes in the way we communicate and connect. Our social support and likability increases, and we're more likely to recognize sources outside of ourselves. We grow in empathy and curiosity. And actually, gratitude can lead to acts of kindness and generosity, compassion.
Yeah.
There's an activation in the brain's altruism and reward system region. So essentially, the brain craves the experience of giving due to the connection created with others.
And I just love the idea of how gratitude so positively can affect our relationships. And it just feels like a beautiful cycle, really, because when you're able to be grateful and recognize the good things in others, you know, it does make you want to be more generous and more compassionate, and in turn you are likely to experience stronger bonds and feel more connected and supported, which in turn no doubt then makes you more grateful. So we've really gone into like lots of detail there about why practicing gratitude is so beneficial, but how can we actually start to cultivate this more in our lives?
One of the things you already mentioned is doing a gratitude journal. Translating your thoughts into words can help to organize thoughts, recognize experiences, and then put those experiences and thoughts into context.
Yeah.
So in gratitude journaling, one suggestion is to write down 3 things you're grateful for. If this feels too much, just write one thing, and try and write new things each day. And you could introduce this as a daily habit, either at the beginning or the end of the day. And pay attention to gratitude-inspiring events. Be specific about what you're grateful for. It will help you to feel. It will help the gratitude to feel more authentic.
Yeah.
Detail will help you to connect with the emotion. Another thing to consider is contemplating endings. So visualizing positive events, relationships coming to an end, and confronting our own mortality can help us to really acknowledge in a meaningful way what's important to us. So this is called counterfactual thinking. And it's about thinking, how could we be worse? And it helps to put what we have into perspective.
Yeah.
So it can help to have some questions to answer or some categories to think about in your gratitude journaling. So entrepreneur and author Tim Ferriss suggests using these categories. So relationships, a relationship that's helped you, what do you admire about this person? How did they make you feel? Acknowledge the effort that it took and reflect on how you benefited. Another category is an opportunity you've had in the past or have today. This could be an obstacle you've overcome, a good thing that's happened that day. And an experience is another category. So an experience that you've had that day, perhaps further in the past, and be specific and really connect to the emotion. Something near you, so an object, another thing you could write about. So an object that you appreciate, perhaps something you use regularly, and again, be detailed.
Yeah. I think it's really useful to have those categories to think about, because often when I think about what I'm grateful for, it's quite generic, and it's, family, food, those things sort of come to mind. But what you've said about being specific and connecting more with the emotion makes a lot of sense in developing this as a practice, something that's really meaningful. And I think it's really good to give yourself permission to be grateful for objects and for the little things. That's the whole point of the practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So another suggestion is writing a gratitude letter or note. So write a letter expressing your gratitude for the impact someone's had on your life, and then read them this letter. Findings have shown that this can have a really positive impact on mental health. It can make people feel happier, more content, and less depressed.
Yeah.
Another thing to think about is communicating your gratitude. So reading your journal out loud, finding a gratitude buddy who you can share your daily practice with, reading a gratitude letter to the person you've written it about, and then in everyday situations, just communicating your gratitude for small things. So it feels really good to be appreciated, and small but specific thanks can go a long way.
Yeah. I love the idea of sharing gratitude with others, particularly that idea of, physically writing a letter to someone or communicating with someone why you're grateful for them, because that can be just really special, actually, and instantly build stronger connections too.
Yeah, it can really help to strengthen bonds. Another idea, you might have heard of this one, is creating a gratitude jar. So this involves just finding a jar, any old jar, and place it somewhere that you'll look every day, and then on a regular basis, write on a piece of paper, I'm thankful for, and then you write what you're thankful for today because, and you write the reason, and then you place these bits of paper in the jar, and then if you're feeling low, you read these blessings to yourself.
I love that idea. Perhaps it could even be something fun for students to do with, like a group of their housemates or family if you're living at home at the minute, where everyone can contribute to that jar and those gratitudes can be shared with each other. I think it's a really nice one.
Well, you're right. Well, we can really be influenced and feel more grateful after hearing other people's gratitude.
Yeah.
So there's another idea is a gratitude breathing exercise called Breath of Franks.
Okay.
So slow down. I'll talk you through it now. Just slow down. Bring your attention to your breathing. Notice how your breath flows in and out without having to do anything. And then for each of the next 5 exhalations, say the words thank you silently to yourself to remind yourself of the gift of breath and how lucky you are to be alive.
Yeah, that one's a good one as well, because I think it's really simple, but very powerful. And I do think sometimes we can get really caught up in life and we don't take those moments to just think about the amazing, complex beauty of being alive and relationships and all of those things. And it can be really gratifying just to pause and acknowledge that. I know I definitely take things for granted, so this feels like a really good practice just to keep you grounded. And I also want to address what I think a lot of students might be thinking, which is, if they're going through a very difficult time, perhaps they've experienced a bereavement recently, or they're going through some health issues or a bad breakup, or struggling with their mental health, they might be sat there listening to us chatting and just thinking, really, how can I be grateful right now? I'm going through such a difficult time. How can cultivating gratitude really actually do anything to help me?
That's a really important observation. We shouldn't ignore or deny suffering or pain.
Yeah.
It's thought that gratitude can help with getting a new perspective, and can help us through crisis conditions. So people who experience gratitude in dire circumstances consistently report that they're happier than those who don't.
Yeah.
So it is thought that gratitude is a choice, an attitude, a prevailing attitude that endures and is relatively immune to the gains and losses that flow in and out of our lives. So even in the terrible adversities, it is possible to be grateful for a benefit that you might have received.
Yeah.
So perhaps these trials and suffering can refine and deepen the gratefulness.
Yeah. And I think actually that can often come with time and reflection, because when you're going through something very challenging, it can often be sort of looking back, and there is often a lot of things to be grateful for in that time, and you realise, perhaps you learned something new about yourself, or you became stronger in how you could cope with something, or you became more independent, or it brought out the best in a particular friendship or relationship. But that being said, I obviously don't think it's easy. So what would you say are some of the challenges that some of our students might face in trying to cultivate more gratitude?
Those are some lovely examples. But no, you're right. It certainly isn't easy, particularly at the moment in light of the current climate of COVID-19. There's been so many disruptions and changes to students' lives, which feel overwhelming and unsettling at times.
Yeah.
The idea that if you're grateful, then you should be fine adjusting to these changes is misleading and invalidating.
Yeah.
So some of the challenges students face to practicing gratitude are, well, they may be feeling mixed emotions at the moment, and it might feel superficial or forced, like they're artificially convincing their mind to think positively, and in the process dismissing how hard things actually are or have been. It takes effort and energy, and it may feel like one more thing to do, something on a to-do list. Students lead busy lives, and they may want to see immediate positive changes, but it can take time to notice benefits. I suppose students may experience emotional patterns whereby there's a natural negativity bias. By this I mean they may pay particular attention to things not going to plan or as they would hope. And well, it's argued that the capacity for joy can and must be trained. So through practicing intentional activities such as gratitude, we sharpen our ability to recognise and acknowledge the gifts of life.
Yeah.
So once students have developed a gratitude practice, it might be hard to sustain, and they might find that they need to have a break for a while in order to appreciate the benefits again. And there's an element of recognising a dependence on others and becoming a good receiver. And it may make some people feel a sense of obligation and a need to reciprocate. So that may make some feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I suppose another thing to mention is, well, people who've suffered atrocities at the hands of others may find it incredibly difficult to find reasons to be grateful. I'm thinking of people who may have experienced or been exposed to impacts of racism, sexual or physical abuse, discrimination, exposure to the impacts of war.
Yeah.
And in these cases, seeking additional support would be advised.
Yeah, definitely.
But above all, I think it's really important to remember to just be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself when you're finding it difficult to practice gratitude. It doesn't come naturally to most of us. It's a skill and it's a resource that can be returned to. Yeah,
I think that's really important. And I think to sort of conclude, the things we can take away from this are, firstly, practicing gratitude really is so valuable and has so many benefits, as you spoke to us about at the beginning. So it is really worth giving a proper go. And as you said, it doesn't necessarily come naturally. So we do have to give our time to it. And in those moments where you're going to feel super busy or, it feels forced, you just have to sort of remind yourself why you're doing it and what the long-term benefits are. And secondly, I think really importantly, it's not about dismissing or ignoring the difficult things going on. However, it's about choosing to tune into the good things alongside the difficult things. And thirdly, I think, as you've just said, like, being patient is really important. Being patient with yourself, being kind to yourself if you are finding it difficult, and just doing what you can. Start somewhere small, because that's ultimately where you can start to cultivate an attitude of gratitude, and it begins to sharpen your ability to recognize just those small good things in your life. And I think this is what ultimately develops that more natural ability to be grateful. So I think I'll bring it to a close here, but I know I, for one, I'm already thinking about going out and buying a journal and starting my journey with this. So thank you so much for chatting to me today, and for all the students listening. And is there anything else you'd like to add just before we finish up?
You're more than welcome. It's been lovely talking to you today, and good luck with your gratitude practice.
Thank you.
You end up in the journal. So I thought we could finish with a quote to do with finding joy in ordinary moments. It's from author Robert Brault. He says, "Enjoy the little things, for one day you may look back and realize they were the big things."
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big fan of enjoying the little things, so that's perfect. So thank you, Mary, and take care, everyone, and we hope to see you all in the next video.